Welcome to the official channel of Prosper Anang Ministries. Step into a powerful journey of faith, inspiration, and spiritual growth with Pastor Prosper, a privileged servant of Jesus. As the lead pastor of the New Testament Gospel Church in Benin City, Nigeria, Pastor Prosper is on a global mission to transform lives. He is an author, writer, fluently sharing God's Word, deep, life-changing insights right to your screen. If you are seeking spiritual guidance, a vibrant faith with God, you are in the right place.
Think about the people you love most in the world. Picture them sitting in your living room right now.
Okay, I've got them.
Now, I want you to sit with this deeply uncomfortable realization. Those same people are, well, they're very likely paying the highest price for your worst moods.
Oof. Yeah, that is uncomfortable.
Right, and not because they did anything to deserve it, but simply because they are the ones who can't leave.
Exactly. I mean, we treat our homes as the one place we can just let go and blow off steam.
But what if the steam we are blowing off is quietly tearing down the foundation of the house? So our mission today is to explore a deeply personal dynamic, the hidden daily cost of our anger on the people we live with.
And it forces us to look at the invisible renovations we make with our moods. Like, we think about home improvement in terms of paint colors and flooring, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But the emotional climate is actually the most structurally significant part of any house.
It really is. And to guide this deep dive, we are looking at an incredibly powerful piece of source material. It's drawn from the Today's Word for You devotional by Pastor Prosper Anang, specifically looking at day 11, when anger moves in.
It's such a vital teaching.
It is. Now, to properly set up the context of this material, the author includes an official introduction statement for this specific teaching. And I want to read it to you word for word to frame our journey today.
Please do.
Okay, here it is. Mastering your anger. A 21-day journey from bondage to dominion is a practical teaching series drawn from my book, Mastering Your Anger. Biblical Principles of Anger Management, Emotional Intelligence Book 1, available on Amazon. Throughout these 21 days, I will be sharing biblical truths, practical insights, and spiritual guidance designed to help you understand anger, overcome its bondage, and walk in dominion through the wisdom and power of God's Word.
That framing is just essential.
Right, it really sets the stage.
Because it moves the conversation entirely away from standard modern stress management, like just counting to 10 or squeezing a stress ball.
Which never really works anyway.
No, it doesn't. Instead, it approaches the home as a spiritual and psychological ecosystem that requires deliberate governance.
So let's challenge the mainstream narrative first.
Yeah.
Because society generally minimizes a quick temper, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. We treat it like a pressure valve.
Yeah. We say things like, oh, I just lost my temper for a second, it's over, I apologize, let's just move on.
Right, water under the bridge.
But the source material today argues that just because the moment passes quickly for you, the person who yelled, it doesn't mean the damage passes for the person who heard it.
And this brings us straight to what Pastor Prosper Anang identifies as a foundational scriptural law.
Ooh, let's get into this. What is the law?
He points to the book of Colossians, chapter 3, verses 19 and 21.
Okay.
The Apostle Paul, the author of that text, establishes a governing spiritual principle for the home. And what is so fascinating is that he doesn't just issue some vague command to be nice.
Right, it's not just a polite suggestion.
Yeah. No, he actually diagnoses the specific relational damage that ungoverned anger produces over time.
What kind of damage?
Well, he says in a marriage, unaddressed anger produces bitterness, and in children, it produces discouragement.
Okay, let's pause and really look at the mechanics of those two words. Because bitterness and discouragement, they don't sound like the immediate reactions to someone yelling.
How do you mean?
Well, when someone yells at me, my immediate reaction is just to be mad back.
Sure, fight or flight.
Yeah, exactly. So why does the text focus on these slow-acting conditions instead of the initial anger?
You have to consider the psychology of how humans process conflict over time. A sudden outburst of anger is fast, voices are raised, a door is slammed.
Someone huffs out of the room.
Exactly, that's the immediate reaction. But bitterness, Bitterness is what happens when that initial anger cools down and hardens.
Oh, wow. It hardens.
Think of it as a settled, corrosive resentment. In a marriage, a spouse doesn't become bitter after one single argument. Bitterness forms because the spouse is tracking a pattern of disrespect over time. It's like a spreadsheet of unaddressed hurts.
A spreadsheet of hurts. That's a brutal image.
It curdles. It goes from being an active fight to a permanent, invisible wall between two people.
It makes me think of the difference between a sudden cut that heals in a few days and, like, a slow leak in the plumbing.
That's a great analogy.
You don't necessarily notice the floor rotting immediately after one drop of water.
Yeah.
But a year later, you step there and the floorboards cave in.
Yeah.
The foundation is completely compromised.
Yes. And if we apply that same slow leak concept to the second word, discouragement in children, the developmental psychology is even more profound.
How so?
Because a child's cognitive development doesn't allow them to separate a parent's temporary bad mood from their own permanent self-worth.
Oh, man. That is so true.
If a parent explodes over a spilled glass of milk, a 6-year-old doesn't think, oh, Dad must have had a stressful meeting at the office today.
No, they don't have that context at all.
Exactly. The child thinks, I am bad. I am a problem. So discouragement, in this context, is a diminishment of their spirit. It fundamentally rewrites how that child views their safety and their value in the world.
So if that slow plumbing leak keeps happening, eventually, the entire house just smells damp. The whole environment changes.
It does.
Which leads us to a really brilliant concept from the text. How does this compounding damage alter the literal atmosphere of the home?
Pastor Prosper Anang introduces a profound analogy here. He calls it the household weather system.
I love this part. Break that down for us.
Okay, so when you think about an isolated incident of anger, say, you get cut off in traffic by a stranger, you yell in your car, the moment passes.
Right, that happens to everyone.
That is a sudden, isolated thunderstorm. It rains, the sun comes out, the pavement dries.
You drive away and you never see that driver again.
Exactly. But a household where anger is unaddressed doesn't just experience isolated storms. No, over time, it develops a settled emotional climate. The text explains that everyone living inside that home learns to navigate, brace for, and eventually shape their own daily behavior around your atmospheric pattern.
Which is absolutely heartbreaking when you picture the reality of it. It's like living in a house where your kids constantly have to check the sky before walking into the kitchen.
Yes, checking the barometric pressure.
The text describes children who learn to test the emotional temperature of the room before asking for help with their homework.
Or a spouse who mentally calculates the risks and decides that a certain important topic just isn't worth bringing up anymore.
Because the pressure in the room is too unstable.
Right. The insidious part of this toxic climate is how quietly it builds. We often look for huge, dramatic blow-ups to justify calling a situation toxic.
Like thrown plates or screaming matches.
Exactly. But this climate develops the same way you might add grains of sand to a scale. One single grain of sand. One sarcastic comment, one harsh sigh, one moment of snapping over the dishes.
It says almost nothing on its own.
Right. But drop thousands of those grains onto the scale, day after day, meal after meal, and eventually the mechanism snaps under the sheer accumulated weight.
So the unspoken rule of the house becomes walk on eggshells.
Yes.
And the tragedy is that the person generating the anger usually doesn't even realize they've created this climate.
Yeah.
You just look at your own momentary frustration, you get mad, you vent, you feel a little better.
But your family is left frantically tracking the pressure changes.
Right. As we continue looking at the Today's Word for You devotional by Pastor Prosper Anang, it becomes clear that this is a systemic issue.
It is entirely systemic. Because the home is unique. You share an address, a dinner table, a bedtime routine. You cannot escape the climate you create.
But wait, if this weather system is so deeply entrenched, like if the bitterness has already started to settle and the kids are already walking on eggshells, what hope is there for breaking it?
Wow.
Because it feels like once the climate is set, you are just trapped in it. Are we doomed to just endure the storms?
Not at all. And this is where the source material transitions from diagnosis to active intervention. Pastor Prosper Anang brings in another ancient text, Proverbs 15.1.
Oh, I know this one.
It says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger."
Okay, I need to push back on this, though.
Go for it.
Because if someone is actively yelling at me, say I walk in the door and my spouse immediately snaps at me about something I forgot to do.
Right.
A gentle answer just feels like I'm rolling over. It feels like passive submission. How is biting your tongue supposed to fix a toxic climate? doesn't that just let the other person win?
That is the natural defensive reaction we all have. I totally get that. But Solomon, the author of that proverb, is not describing passive submission.
He's not.
No, he is describing an aggressive, deliberate tool for de-escalation.
Okay, explain that.
Think of it as a circuit breaker. In a household, friction is inevitable. If you have a difficult coworker, you can clock out, go home, and put physical distance between you and the conflict. You can't do that at your own dinner table. When that friction sparks, a harsh word pours gasoline on it. It actively fuels the toxic weather system.
But the gentle answer breaks the circuit.
Precisely. It turns the wrath away. It stops the electrical surge before it burns the house down. And honestly, it requires immense strength to choose gentleness when every instinct in your body wants to match the other person's aggressive energy. You are consciously choosing not to participate in the escalation.
Let's put the listener squarely in the scene. Imagine it's 6:00 p.m. You just pulled into the driveway after a grueling day at work. You are exhausted.
We've all been there.
You walk through the front door, the dog is barking, the kids are screaming over a toy, and your spouse immediately hits you with a harsh criticism about a bill you forgot to pay.
The perfect storm.
Your heart rate spikes. You can feel the physical heat of anger rising in your chest. In that exact millisecond, how do you practically access this gentle answer? How do we move from understanding this theory to actually changing our behavior?
To bridge that gap, we have to look at the quote for today. Pastor Prosper Anang's Piquet quote for today's devotional is incredibly grounding.
Oh, I want to hear this.
He writes, quote, "The people who love you most often carry the heaviest cost of your ungoverned anger, not because they deserve it, but because they are the ones who stay."
Not because they deserve it, but because they are the ones who stay. That is heavy.
It is. And if you can anchor your mind to that specific truth in that millisecond at 6:00 p.m., it changes your motivation entirely.
Because it's not about winning anymore.
Exactly. You aren't biting your tongue to let them win. You are deploying a gentle answer to protect the people who stay.
That reframes the entire power dynamic. You aren't a victim of the argument, you are the architect of the peace.
Architect of the peace. I like that.
But the devotional doesn't just leave us with good intentions. It actually demands concrete action.
It really does.
And one of the most demanding challenges it presents is something we can call the vulnerable question.
Yes. The author challenges the reader to go to their household, drop all defenses, and ask directly, "What do you experience from me when I am angry?"
Just the thought of asking my family that makes my stomach drop.
It's terrifying.
Because what if they say something that really hurts? Say I ask my spouse this and they reply, "You make me feel completely insignificant and small."
Ouch.
Right. My immediate instinct is going to be defensive. I want to litigate the past and say, "No, I don't. I just asked you to load the dishwasher. Why are you being so dramatic?"
And boom, you're back in the storm.
Exactly. So how do we handle the answer to this question without turning the conversation itself into a new thunderstorm?
By understanding that you are on a fact-finding mission, not a trial.
A fact-finding mission.
Right. You are asking for their experience of the weather system, not a debate about the facts of a specific argument.
Okay.
If they say you make them feel small, your only job in that moment is to receive that information and say, "Thank you for telling me. I don't want to make you feel small anymore."
Just receive it.
Yes, because you have to identify whether your home's specific pattern is leaning toward bitterness or discouragement. That way, you know exactly what kind of climate repair is needed.
This connects directly to what the text calls kingdom principles. For anyone listening who might not be familiar with that terminology, let's break it down real quick.
Sure.
Think of kingdom principles as the underlying operating system of a healthy spiritual ecosystem. Just like gravity governs physics, these principles govern human flourishing.
That's a great way to put it.
So vague resolutions like, "Oh, I'll try to be calmer this week," they don't align with these principles because they lack deliberate structural intention.
Which is exactly why the author pairs these principles with what he calls prophetic intercessions and speak life declarations.
Let's translate those terms too, because they are vital to the how.
Definitely.
A prophetic intercession in the context of this text isn't about predicting the future. It's a verbal, psychological, and spiritual commitment to a new reality. It is literally speaking a new blueprint into existence before you start building the house.
It's legislating a new emotional climate. You don't just stop saying harsh words, you actively fill the space with declared intentions of peace.
And the devotional gives us the exact words to use.
Yes. To give you the specific tools from the text, Pastor Prosper Anang provides 3 explicit Speak Life declarations to begin reprogramming your household's climate.
Let's hear them. What are the 3 declarations the listener can use today?
Okay, Speak Life Declaration 1. I declare that my home is becoming a climate of peace, and I reject the silent accumulation of bitterness.
So powerful. Rejecting that silent accumulation. What's the second one?
Speak Life Declaration 2. I choose the active intervention of the gentle answer to break the circuit of friction in my household.
Taking back control.
Exactly. And finally, Speak Life Declaration 3. I commit to building up the spirits of my children, replacing the weather system of discouragement with divine order and governed love.
Saying those out loud daily, it fundamentally shifts your posture.
It really does.
You are setting the thermostat for the day instead of just reacting to whatever weather rolls in.
And you aren't doing it alone. The author also includes a powerful element here for his global audience, Pastor Prosper Anang's prophetic prayer.
What does that entail?
He models the spiritual warfare by interceding for the reader. He prays that the chains of ungoverned emotional reactions be broken, and that the listener receives the spiritual stamina required to consistently choose the gentle answer, even when exhausted.
Because it is exhausting.
It acknowledges that this level of behavioral change isn't just a mental exercise. It requires profound spiritual strength.
And we desperately need that stamina. Breaking an entrenched pattern is, well, it's the hardest work you can do.
It really is.
But I want to highlight something really interesting here, jumping off that idea and putting this into practice. The devotional actually includes a small group discussion segment, right?
It does. It provides some fantastic reflection questions for you to sit with, maybe with your spouse or a study group.
What kind of questions?
Questions like, what challenged you most from today's lesson? Or, how can this truth be applied this week?
Taking it from theory to Monday morning reality.
Exactly. It also asks, what areas of your life need adjustment in light of the scripture, and which part of the devotional spoke most deeply to you?
I love that one.
The ultimate goal of those questions is really to ask, how does this devotional help you understand or master anger more biblically? It creates such thoughtful discussion.
As we synthesize everything we've uncovered in the Today's Word for You devotional by Pastor Prosper Anang, the takeaway is ultimately deeply hopeful.
It really is.
Ungoverned anger leaves a terrible residue. Yes, it builds storm systems. But you hold the tools to dismantle it. By choosing the gentle answer, asking the vulnerable questions, and speaking life over your home, you can completely change the weather.
The fundamental goal is restoration. A home is meant to be a refuge.
A refuge, not a place of tension where people have to constantly brace for impact.
Exactly. And restoring it to a refuge requires the daily, conscious choice to govern your responses.
We've spent a lot of time today dissecting how your anger impacts your immediate household right now.
Yeah.
But as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, something that echoes far beyond today's text.
Okay, what is it?
Consider the intergenerational reality of this weather system. If your children are currently learning to read the emotional temperature of your living room, if they were developing survival tactics that tiptoe around your conflict, how will those deeply ingrained tactics shape the emotional climate of the homes they eventually build 20 years from now?
That is a staggering thought.
Are you passing down a familiar storm system? Or are you teaching them, by your own deliberate change, how to build a refuge? The climate change starts with you.